Welcome to the IoT podcast show. I'm your host Tom White. Today we are joined by Dan Cunliffe and Dr. Arslan Usman from Pangea. Dan is the managing director of Pangea and co-founder. Pangea is a global recognized leader in IoT connectivity and a multi-award winning IoT solutions platform. Dan's been recognized for his team-first approach to leadership, resilience in the face of challenge, and commitment to helping Pangea partners optimize their results. And the numbers really do speak for themselves. Pangea recently secured over £2 million for their partners while saving them an equal amount of money, whilst keeping over 80,000 students connected to the internet during recent lockdowns. Arslan Usman is credited with over 40 academic publications within the wireless communications field, with a key focus on 5G. He's leading the in-depth research with Pangea's 5G project, a world first in video compression and data transfer capabilities. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having us. We're very, very excited.
You're welcome. Dan, if I could just kick off by asking you, what led you to founding Pangea?
Many roads, I think. My background is quite techie. I guess my qualifications are in things like applied maths and computer science and a bit of engineering thrown in there. Just to top it off, I ended up being a teacher actually when I came to this country, to the UK, back in what's it, 2007, so quite a while ago. But yeah, what led me there was particularly my kind of love for tech and working with people. So one of my kind of formative jobs in the UK was working for Telefonica O2, where I ran partners and strategy for their broadband business. So it was all about their broadband business, but we exited that business after doing fairly well to Sky, which is now Sky Broadband actually. And I then took the opportunity to convince my operations manager at the time, Chris Ramika, to co-found with me on Pangea. So, and having that kind of interest, working with, we had a very similar strategy to what we have now at Pangea at O2, which was we working through partners. So everything we sell, everything we do is through a channel. So we don't necessarily go direct. We don't try and sell to direct customers. We work with our partners. And so I thought, you know what, 6.5 years ago, that the Internet of Things has got so much to give in various directions. There's so much more to do. How awesome would it be if we could build a channel strategy and give, at that time, I suppose, a kind of UK telecoms channel the opportunity to sell these products into their existing customers? And that's sort of how we got started. And the usual kind of intro stories is like, we probably started with just playing golf. It was like in September when we sort of thought about it. And then we realized we're playing too much golf and not enough thinking. So we should probably think a bit more. And then, it just began in the sort of, the whole bedroom story. And here we are 6 years later.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a real varied background, certainly from an academic perspective as well. So
yeah.
applied maths and computer science,
Do you know, it's I've always enjoyed working with people. Like, I suppose if you want to call it like in a bit of a sales environment or an account management environment, and I kind of call it my sort of pre-Pangea years was a lot about that. It was actually about trying to get people to buy into technology, whether that be O2's network, or before that I worked at a company called The Cloud, which is all about Wi-Fi technology. So it was always about like, hey, do you know what, this thing we're trying to, I suppose, sell you is actually going to be quite good for you, and this is why, and these are the technical reasons. And I found that having that background and the ability to speak, fairly sort of, I don't know how you want to put it, but kind of give the client the assurances, not just like, hey, I'm trying to sell you this for that amount of money. It's about, this is the reason why it's going to be good, or actually buy this one of ours or that one of ours because that helps you. People really buy into that if you are genuine. And so I think that was useful for me. But yeah, it's a long way since working out some of the more random applied math reasons in South Africa, where we would do things like, could you predict which vineyard is going to produce the best wine based on the last 50 years of rainfall. That's the kind of stuff we used to do. Yeah.
Okay.
And then drink it, of course. I mean, that's the obvious.
Yeah.
That's the obvious answer at the back of it.
Yeah, I mean, if only machine learning, right, had its,
If only.
But no, it's interesting. I think, well, my background was in computing for real-time systems, so I think it's something that kind of transcends where you are and where you grow up and what you do and where you end up. It might not be that you're actually there at the coalface, but you're involved somehow in the industry, and that's nice to know, because I think it legitimizes what you're doing, doesn't it? Fantastic. And Arslan, yourself, so you've got a deep background in telco, also worked at Kingston University, is that right?
Yes. Thanks, Tom. So I have nearly 9 years of experience in research and development all across the world, including recently in UK. So I came to UK 3 years ago, and I joined one of the biggest wireless communication-related research groups here. It's working under the umbrella of Digital Information Research Center. It's in fact one of the biggest research groups in UK, not just in Kingston University. So I worked with Wireless Multimedia Networking Research Group, and my expertise was always about quality of experience and 5G networks. So before that, I was working as a full-time research assistant alongside working on my doctorate in wireless communication in South Korea. So I was leading 6 different industrial projects, mainly revolving around multimedia networks and next generation cellular communication. So 5G right now is, of course, it has got a lot of limelight, and it's it's in the heat of the moment right now. But back then, 10 years ago, when I started, actually, you can say just rumors about the next generation of cellular technology, that is 5G. So I started thinking that I should sort of get back into R&D. And because my main studies were related to telecommunication engineering 9 years ago when I was in Sweden. But it was mainly focused towards industry, and I sort of had interest in research from the beginning. So I shifted my focus towards research and started working in 5G networks. So I worked in different research groups across the world, in Sweden, in Nigeria with Alcatel-Lucent, which is now Nokia, in South Korea, then now currently in UK. So my title says I am a system architect, but I do various bits and pieces.
Arslan belongs to the matrix, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like a great catch, doesn't it?
He's just a program that like turns up where he needs to make it. He's a wonderful human.
Yeah. Which pill did you take? The red or the blue? That's amazing. So yeah, fantastic background and very complimentary by the sounds of it. I mean, guys, so Pangea, your slogan is connecting everything. In your opinion, and I don't know who wants to answer this first, but what sectors are we seeing advancing connectivity right now for some of our listeners that may not be aware? And similarly, what ones could benefit from growing connectivity, in your opinions?
Yeah, I might start, Arslan, and maybe you can talk us through some of the areas that you're probably looking at a bit closer at the moment. But yeah, I mean that's the slogan, and for anyone who doesn't know what the word means, it's the kind of ancient Greek word of connecting all the continents back together, essentially. And so we came up with the name in a London bar when one of my then sort of shareholders asked me, like, what are you going to call this thing? And I was like, I kind of like this word Pangea. And the point of that is we are very proud of the ability to, again, help our partners connect to and connect things pretty much anywhere in the world now, across different I suppose sectors. So your question about like what's leading the way, what's kind of going, for us, we have to be prepared to work in any sector, because our partners will bring us a deal to connect a little device, or maybe a very kind of high bandwidth device, or something that needs LTE-M, which is a different type of technology for lower power solutions. For me, I think we're at a very interesting perspective right now, where I think for the last 6 years, it's been a kind of relative focus on high volume of connections. So I'm kind of trying to explain the sector, right? So like high volume of connections and probably lower amounts of bandwidth or amounts of data. So you're sort of up to 20 megabytes per thing that you're connecting. So what is that, right? Like, so that's like telemetry devices, that is vehicle tracking, that could be asset tracking, predictive maintenance, which is really interesting market where you can, if you kind of dumb it down a bit, one of our clients is sells a lot into construction. So if you imagine the construction industry is hiring tools all the time, yeah, because they're not going to buy all the tools they need. So they'll hire a bunch of tools in, they'll use that drill or that pneumatic drill or whatever it might be. That device has been used to within a certain tolerance before it breaks, yeah. But when you return that device to the shed or to the guy who's rented it to you, how cool would it be if they knew what the tolerances was it hit? So that pneumatic drill's been, it's done 95% of the tolerance for vibration or 100% of the heat that it's meant to take. That kind of information that says, you know what, don't send this guy back out again. Like, get him refurbed, almost like a super sub, right? Get him fixed before you send him out again. Because the biggest cost for these tool hire companies is going to fix something that's broken or replacing it. That's where their big cost is, because they make no return on it. So that whole market, Tom, has been super buoyant, fleet management, telemetry devices, asset tracking, and globally. What I'm seeing now, probably the last 12 to 18 months, is this increase in, I want more data. Yeah, I want more information. It's great that I know the tolerances, but I also want to know real time the tolerances rather than tell me when you get back. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need more of the same. I need to know more. And now you're kind of going up a stack where guys are actually, the devices are getting more powerful, the networks are more stable, and they're just demanding more real-time information to make better decisions. So now you're moving up the stack to maybe, sort of multiple gigabytes per endpoint. And so those sectors are now starting where you probably have better interaction with things like your, I suppose, analytics-driven platforms that sit in the device almost at that point, like just giving constant information. So, earlier stages, I'd say currently, you've got your, or kind of last 6 years is that telemetry, asset management, monitoring, high volume, low data. Now I'm seeing sort of medium volume, maybe even lower volume, but way more data required in those sectors. And then you're getting into in-car Wi-Fi, vehicle-to-vehicle conversation, even improvements on digital screens, that need more bandwidth to deliver the services that people want. Does that make sense in sort of weird way? I mean, I kind of went on one there, but
no, it's fine.
Back,
Yeah, it's okay. No, I liked it. It's sometimes you got to go with the flow, right? Completely understand, and I think that's a lot of what we hear on the podcast. It's a lot of what we see in the market right now. So yeah, completely, and it's nice to take your view on that.
And so as kind of going further, there's a big play in healthcare as well. I mean, Arslan will probably talk a bit more about that, but I find healthcare pretty interesting because the technology is required. When are we going to always get the thing we want? Because it's not always about. It's great to think about healthcare. It's actually about whether or not the bodies who run the healthcare are able to actually deliver it, because the systems are usually behind what we're trying to deliver as innovative IoT businesses.
Regarding healthcare and other IoT related things, so it's, for me, connecting everything is, it simply means when you, for example, you go out for a walk and you see things around you. For example, just 5 years ago, if you went around Kingston, where we are based, you would see the garbage cans, they were always over flooded. So that was a big annoyance. But right now they all have these IoT sensors and they are connected with the headquarters, I don't know the name, who are actually sort of responsible for collecting the garbage. So now they're embedded with these IoT sensors and they're connected. So they always know that, okay, the garbage can is full or not. And this saves a lot of resources as well. So it's, the concept of connecting everything comes in place from there. Regarding healthcare, so it's absolutely, I completely agree with Dan. The technology aspect of connectivity is far ahead than the actual the policies that you see in the government and in bodies like NHS all across the world. So connectivity-based options, they're already there. For example, we are working on a project right now, which is about exchange of pre-hospital information with connected hospitals or remote hospitals. We will dig in further about this later on in the podcast. So it has to go hand in hand, right? So the NHS policies, they have to be inclined towards these kind of projects as well. Though the pandemic situation in UK and everything, it has played a very big role in UK's policy shift towards telemedicine and telehealth. So I think the IoT play field is very bright.
Yeah. Thank you for that, guys. I mean, you led me on quite nicely to the next thing that I was going to mention. So clearly the healthcare sector has become highly ingrained within IoT. 5G in particular is providing a lot of value in many areas of healthcare. What solutions can 5G and IoT connectivity support primarily in this healthcare sector, in your opinion?
So I can take the lead here.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah.
No, go for it.
Actually, there are plenty of solutions and ideas that can become a reality with IoT and 5G. But of course, I will just give you a few examples, not all of them.
Yeah. Just the top two, Arslan, you know?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Telemedicine and telehealth, both of them, they're one of the vertical industries that 5G networks have enabled. So there are several vertical industries that are associated with 5G. So telemedicine and telehealth, they are, I think, one of the key enablers. Because with 4G networks, there were certain bottlenecks such as speeds, reliability, time-sensitive application, all of this. This was a certain bottleneck with 4G networks, and 5G, because it promises with its unique use cases, it promises really high speeds, support time-sensitive applications with latency as low as 1 millisecond, and super high reliability. So we can overcome these bottlenecks through 5G. So in healthcare, for example, the project that we are working on ourselves, it's so one of the projects is called the Connected Ambulance. So what we are trying to achieve is sharing pre-hospital information with remotely connected doctors or physicians so they can make early clinical decisions.
Yeah.
So this is one example. So now there are basic things as simple as vital signs within an ambulance that are not totally, but I would say pretty much useless if they're being measured within an ambulance, but their doctor doesn't have access to it. So, but it's something very simple, right? But if it is transferred successfully via a secure and reliable 5G network to a doctor, then they can make early clinical decisions. Apart from this, there is another project that actually became a reality because of the pandemic situation in UK. It's called the Techie Hub. Maybe you have heard about it. It's something similar. What they're trying to do is share information about residents of care homes with doctors. So, the care homes were really badly affected.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
So just two simple GPs, they came up with this idea that, okay, we can have a very small device which can at least give us access to basic things like temperature, blood pressure, etc. from the care homes. So we don't really have to expose those patients or force them to come to visit GPs if they need us. So these are very simple ideas, and definitely they have, if you talk about technology and IoT itself, it has all the capability to support these ideas. All we have to do is just convince the authorities and the policymakers to have a shift towards implementing these. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I think. Sorry, go on, Dan.
I was just going to say, sorry. That's. I know you're mentioning about what we spoke there, but it's very true that you've got these sort of nuances that 5G, and I know we're going to cover a bit further, but it is quite exciting. The reality is that we need the operators to keep doing what they're doing. The guys who are laying the foundations or building the roads, if you want, for us to achieve these really cool things. And sometimes they do get a bad rap. because everyone's like, oh, that's not good enough, that's not good enough. But actually, they are the guys building these infrastructures for us, and we just got to keep delivering really cool ideas, particularly healthcare, whatever it might be, so we can keep pushing them to keep delivering those roads. It's an interesting dynamic when you get to that side of it too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, Nick Jeffrey, when he was actually at the helm at Vodafone, put some quite emotional posts up on LinkedIn about people, burning these masts, right? And this is one of the aims of me having this podcast show and having fantastic people like yourself on to say, hey, look, do you realize kind of the benefits? It isn't this horrible monster that we see, and it's unfounded through this weird kind of pseudo reverse propaganda that we see about 5G. Exactly. It's actually fantastic, and the benefits are fantastic. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a reciprocal thing. You need to push the operators, and the operators need people like you to be pushing the envelope on these solutions.
Correct. And then make it valuable for them, right? Because in the end, it's an investment from them.
Yeah.
It's an investment from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, can we touch back more on the healthcare sector? So you've recently conducted a project into 5G in the healthcare sector. Can you talk a little bit more about this project and what it means for the way that we think about healthcare and this whole revolution of connectivity?
Yeah, I might just start, Arslan, and then I'll kind of hand over to you at some point in that chat, because I think it's worth just explaining where it's come from, right? So this project was it's founded on something called the Knowledge Transfer Partnership, KTP. So again, a bit of a big up for the UK government, but there is funding available if you can team up with a university, in our case, Kingston University, and the incredible, Dr. Christos and Dr. Nada, who are the guys and girls who bring their wireless capability and their knowledge. And then we as a business go, do you know what? Actually, you guys have got some great knowledge. We've got some cool commerce. Let's bring that together with a bit of funding. We recruit someone who can lead a project, which we'll talk about. Now, that someone in this case is Arslan. Yeah. So Arslan's come in because, well, he's just incredibly talented and has a lot of background in this stuff. But we then sort of try to fix a problem, which is like, what's happening? And he only briefly touched on it, which we'll talk about. What happens when we are sending an ambulance to the hospital? Are we actually benefiting from helping what's going on in the ambulance to tell people, hey, do you know what? We're on our way to A&E. These are the very important vital signs, real time, using 5G and the capability to make better decisions. That's what, break it all down. IoT is really about, can I make better decisions with machines making choices and helping me make choices? But the nitty gritty of that extends further. And like Arslan will probably touch on that, but in terms of how we can take that into anything sort of camera related or other things that we can do using that technology for the greater good. I don't quite remember the ins and outs of the stats, but I know, and I think most people on this podcast would probably agree, that you always wait a long time at A&E unless it's super, super, super urgent or there's something wrong. But generally, that's one of the challenges for the NHS, is that they're so bottlenecked at the A&E part, where what we're trying to create is a way to actually remove a lot of that bottleneck by making pre-diagnosis or kind of in-life diagnosis to prevent that bottlenecking. But to more about the project, Arslan can probably tell you a bit more, the ins and outs.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. So, you know that we sort of right now live in the era of big data. So you see data being generated all over, everywhere, with everything associated to you. So in ambulances, so the motivation of the project is basically something like this. So in ambulances, you have a lot of data. It's vital signs, ECGs. If the paramedics are capable, they do ultrasounds as well. So all of this data is only useful to doctors in A&Es, especially if it's a 999 call. It's only useful once the ambulance actually hits the A&E. That's it. Otherwise, it's, for example, the London ambulance services, their waiting period or the transition period from the scene of emergency to hospital is around 15-20 minutes. So in that 15-20 minutes, which are super crucial if it's a critically ill patient, they're very important. So if in those 15-20 minutes, the doctor has access to all this information and sort of has access to in-ambulance video streaming, of course, consent-based, then we can make early clinical decisions to have benefits which are threefold. So the first one is, of course, enhancing healthcare. So you have the opportunity to save someone from not maybe, it will not maybe result in some sort of a fatality, but at least you can give someone a chance to not develop some disability. For example, in the cases of strokes, certain cardiovascular diseases. Then second is, as Dan mentioned, alleviating the pressure from A&Es. So the thing is that you have, like, even if you have very simple symptoms, which you can sort of you can treat them at home, but because you have sort of like a panic that you need to go to A&E, and you sort of go there and you just stay there, you wait for 4 or 5 hours, and then you're attended. So all these queues, they can easily be avoided if you have remote access to a doctor. So this is one of the key benefits that will unfold with this project. And finally, the last one is about hospital avoidance. So sometimes there are panic calls. For example, I know one, I won't share the details, but there was one panic call from a care home, which could easily be avoided, and there could be you could save a lot of resources in terms of the paramedics, the time consumed, etc., all of it. So these can be avoided if you have remote access to doctors. So ambulance visiting a patient, the doctor can simply say that, okay, you just give this very simple medicine and that's it. Then you don't need to really bring in the patient to A&Es. So all of these combined, they are the motivation of the project. And the in-ambulance video streaming that I just mentioned, we are developing our own compression algorithm that will be super friendly in terms of bandwidth. So its bandwidth consumption is always a problem, right? So a question comes to mind that if you save resource and everything with this project, but at the same time you're increasing some costs associated with bandwidth consumption, connectivity, but this is our main focus. We will make sure that our in-ambulance video streaming uses a certain compression algorithm, that it will be super bandwidth friendly, and it will cost very less in terms of bandwidth consumption.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't want to big it up, which is why I let Arslan do it, but I'm still pretty humbled when he speaks about it to me, because what we're trying to do is, hopefully we can save lives or prevent certain, not so great things happening to people. But equally, can we make it accessible so that it's not just the UK who can use it, but it could be a global thing we could do, right? It doesn't matter where it goes. So you got to deliver something that's going to have huge amounts of benefit, not be crazy in terms of cost, but can be easily deployed. And that's sort of part of this journey we've been on, right? So we're sort of halfway through the 3-year plan. We're getting soon to sort of commercializing parts of it, and Arslan sort of underplays it, but we are creating our own IP on this. There's a lot of things we're doing that we own, and we're very keen to work with a lot of our partners today in the UK who've got NHS contacts, and we want to be like, cool, let's like test this stuff out and start to see, because it's not easy. We spoke about policymakers, and the policies being a bit behind technology, and we understand that, but actually, the outcome could be quite dramatic.
Yeah, I think it's really fantastic, and we've had a few people on the show where they're doing projects that have a real world impact straight away, and this is what I love about having people like yourselves on, because this is something that's going to affect everyone and affect people in their everyday lives, which sometimes when you talk about IoT, it seems like this kind of mystical thing that people don't really understand, but when you actually talk about it in real context, that's fantastic. The NHS gets a bit of a raw deal, and I think after the pandemic, people have started to realise that, hey, this is a really great, fantastic service. So anything that's going to help them be better at their job, some of the projects that's happening with NHSX, what you're doing here is fantastic. Even from my personal point of view, I recently got Bupa. And there was Babylon Health, which works in conjunction with Bupa. I'm able to see a GP 24 hours a day within an hour's notice without having to put strain on those services. And that's really, I guess, what this is about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Reducing that strain.
100%. I mean, I think anywhere you can. Well, this is the purpose, right, of IoT. Like I said before, it's to make better decisions. It's to influence, I guess, sectors or markets where you can use technology to make it better. And we spoke about the predictive maintenance example earlier, but this is more like a predictive personal maintenance type scenario, right, where you are using different types of technologies. But as Arslan said, there are a lot of challenges, right? Like, you can't just turn up and go, hey, I'm going to put a new thing in an ambulance and I'm going to go forward with it, because we may talk about the other aspects where we want to use this, what we want to use this intellectual property for. But yeah, I mean, Tom, it's great to be in this sort of environment we are, where we can help things like the NHS and other health organizations around the world, because I do see this as transferable. I do see the ability to use something like, it's very few countries who don't have an ambulance. You could make one if you wanted to, right? But you have an ambulance, you generally have mobile connectivity, cameras are able to be put in there, and doctors are able to be brought into this ecosystem. And so I think we can transfer it down the road. But yeah, I definitely want to prove our stripes in the UK market.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Dan, I think you just touched upon it there, but you are making inroads, right? And you're conducting this project in policing and firefighting potentially, and this is something that you may be able to transfer this across.
Yeah, I'll touch a bit. Then again, like I said, I'll pass on to Arslan. So part of the business plan to get this started was, where else could you take the technology? So obviously we've explained the ambulance, but body worn. Basically, think of anywhere that a camera can be used, where we have a more, I guess, friendlier algorithm to compress loads amounts of high definition video into manageable sort of bandwidth for mobile technology. That's kind of the real dumbed down version of it, but it becomes useful when you think about body worn cameras using a single SIM that connects to all the networks. Yeah, so you never run out. Like, can you imagine? I mean, I don't know the stats again, but I can imagine that policeman's chasing someone down and then he runs out of connectivity, or like he loses the network. What we're trying to build is something that helps to move between networks, that will choose the best, that will also be the right level of bandwidth control to make sure we get the footage, to make sure we can make the decisions. Yeah. So body worn cameras in the police, 100%. There's a big play for that, and a lot of guys are interested in what we're doing there. Firefighting as well, for obvious reasons. To be able to replay what happened, or kind of what could be done. We're particularly looking at the CCTV market, where we can help situations there. I spoke to someone yesterday at my rugby club, because we're now allowed to play outside again since this week or something.
Yeah,
which is great. So super excited to get outside. And he is he's like an acting CEO for a computer vision company. Okay. And we're talking about cameras that effectively, for autonomous vehicles, when they're learning the road and they're kind of trying to figure out what's coming up as part of the AI piece. And I explained to him, what you need is strong algorithms to process all that stuff, and particularly to keep the bandwidth low so you can deliver this globally. So yeah, quite a few markets, I'll be honest. Plenty of place to go in terms of what you can do with it. But yeah, I mean, we just want to get this part done as well. It's important to get those first milestones across the road. But yeah, a few people are interested in it, which is great.
That's fantastic.
So just adding a bit more about it, I will give you some scenarios how police body-worn cameras and similar situations for firefighters, how can they be helpful? So for example, if you have a body-worn camera with 5G connectivity, and it's just a use case, and it is something it is a very hot topic right now all across the world. So you can easily identify people if you have some AI-based algorithm running at the back end. So you can't have AI-based algorithms within the body-worn cameras because they're highly complex. They require a lot of computational power, etc. And you need decision in seconds. So a tiny device can't do that. So you connect them with cloud computing platforms. So again, 5G comes in. So 5G has things like multi-access edge computing, MEC. They're developing these platforms with Amazon, with Microsoft, different vendors. So what happens is all this intensive processing, it takes place in these cloud computing platforms. So you have this body-worn camera, you are taking a live feed, you have like, I don't know, you're in a chase or you are attending some emergency and you need quick identification of the people involved or the person in emergency. So you just feed that live video stream into the 5G mobile edge computing, and it gives you a decision that, okay, this is the person who you're attending to or chasing or whatever. Similar is the case with firefighting. So you can first, of course, in firefighting, safety and communication, they go hand in hand. So the more communication happens among the firefighters and within their headquarters, the more safer they feel. And of course, they can perform their duty actively if they have good communication among each other. So 5G comes in there as well. And if they have access to body-worn cameras, again, some AI-based algorithm that is happening at the back end that can help them to predict the speed and severity of a fire, that how fast is it going to spread and what actions need to be taken. So all of this, it's not just about 5G, of course, it's definitely the back end, which is the artificial intelligence part as well. It all goes hand in hand and works out, I think, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Well, without meaning to sound overly techie on this, I understand this quite well because I have a real personal interest in video compression, decompression systems, and also AI on the back end. In fact, we have so at my house we have a Hikvision NVR with AI-based cameras, right? So the NVR will store the AI processing and would do image recognition. And even look to see if the object is not a human object, right? So if it's your dog or something like that, it won't set off alarms. Similar tech, I suppose, in a way. But you're right. It's about the...
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, can you imagine how many people have, like, you know, not to play it down, but like almost had a heart attack from the alarm going off in the night, and it's the cat just coming home.
Exactly. Exactly. I think you're right, and I think, you know, just to clarify that point then for anyone that's listening that doesn't understand this is the advantage as well of 5G and IoT, isn't it? Because when you look at software compression of video codecs, it's difficult to get that high quality video streamed back to the cloud over a 4G. And you need that in order to harvest that AI bank to be able to then start predicting and doing facial recognition. And that's the limitations of having a 4G, you know, real world, 40 megabits, something like that at best, maybe. So this is the fantastic thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very well put.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, I'm curious to know where this is all going. And again, this is such a wide question. So maybe I'll ask each of you. What do you think is a use case of 5G in the future? Something immediate that you see outside of what you're doing that you're personally looking forward to? Maybe start with yourself, Dan.
Okay, cool. Yeah, happy to. So I'll come at it from a telecoms perspective and a telecoms provider, because that's a lot of my background's in that and kind of thinking about things. And for me, we do a lot of work with sort of, you know, I guess tier 1, tier 2 level ISPs. Okay, and for them, they've been traditionally providing copper services or fiber services to homes or to businesses for a long time, and they've been stressed a little bit about what 5G brings, because it's the potential is so powerful, that you can deliver these things over the air and within days, and it's got a lot there. And my mantra has been a lot about, look, the way we are helping them kind of address that is that don't worry about like the competitive threat. Think about the ability to just focus on endpoints on your service. Just think about endpoints. How many more endpoints are there on a mobile environment than there are on fixed environments? Like, you know, there's one office with 20 people in, but that 20 people have actually got 20 endpoints. So you can connect more things, you can drive more business, you can be more excited about it. So for me, in terms of where that's going is, and this is a benefit to all, you know, the man in the street, the guy running a business, the whole thing, is that we can use the over-the-air and underground technology, over-the-air being 5G, right? But the ability to connect people much quicker in terms of time taken to get a service, but then also to be more reliable if you combine those two together. So for me and my customers, and the way I'm pushing it forward, I really believe that is something that's maybe not thought about that much, but the blend of wireless and fixed together in what 5G brings is just going to be, it's going to be great, because it means we can do more critical deployments faster. We spoke about, I don't know if we mentioned, but we're doing a lot of sort of blood donor vehicles or breast screening vehicles and all this sort of stuff using where 5G is available. We're trying to use it for that, or where we use combined 4G. And I can just see that becoming the norm, which is a great experience, because you just get more out of that service and you can start to push more through it as well. So that's, for me, is one place I think it's really exciting.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Arslan, how about yourself?
So for me, I actually want to sort of highlight one thing which is always missing when we have 5G conversations. It's about network slicing.
Okay.
So network
good one.
Something. It's, I'll put it in very easy words. It's about sort of when you're hungry or you're not hungry, you want a certain piece of the pie, like a bigger piece of the pie or a small piece of the pie. So that's what network slicing is. For example, you have a very resource hungry business. So you tell the network operators that, okay, you need these dedicated chunk of resources in terms of bandwidth, reliability, and end-to-end delay, that I want these chunk of resources for a particular period of time, and you let me help. You let me, I don't know, download something, upload something for this particular period of time. So I'm really looking forward to network operators having this capability of network slicing. So one application can be, for example, self-driving cars. Tesla self-driving cars, they have, so I don't know how frequent it occurs, but they do have to, just like our cell phones or laptops, they need to have software updates, right? So when a software update happens, you need to have a very strong, reliable, and a high-speed connection, so it happens really quick without a hiccup, even if you're moving. So Tesla can sort of tell the network operators that, okay, we'll pay you this much, but for these 2-3 hours, please make sure that all our cars, they have this dedicated chunk of resources, so they can just easily have the software upgrade. So as a researcher, I'm really looking forward to this capability of network slicing in 5G.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
Yeah, it really is. It's often overlooked, actually, as you say. Not many people talk about it, despite the massive benefits. And just lastly, guys, because I know that we're slightly running over slightly on this, but it's okay. Pangea, where's it going? What can we expect to see you guys doing in the future? Doing some fantastic stuff at the moment, but what should people be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, even though very, very humbled to be running a business for 6 years now. Like it's a lot of effort for anyone who's listening and is running a business, whether you're in year 1 or year 60. In terms of getting.
I can relate. I had hair when I started.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's pretty cool to still kind of be here doing our thing and being able to do this stuff with you guys, Tom, on the IoT podcast. But I think it's about constantly doing the things that we love, which is creating the ability to, number one, help our partners sell into many more markets, right? So it's our job to keep bringing the right inputs in terms of technology, capability, and of course commercial capability as well. So you can sell and go out and do these things. Maybe bringing that into kind of specifics. I'm pretty keen on always looking at what are the transferable products and services we have. So sort of what Arslan's product, that does belong more than just the UK. We should be looking at it further like that. We've got a lot of our solutions now. I mean, just as an interest. So we can connect almost anywhere in the world, but we have 51 countries that have a service from us in the world, which is pretty cool. Now, how do you make that? I'm not necessarily that keen on having it to be 52. Like that will happen naturally, but is how much in every one can we do more of? That's what I'm pretty keen on. Like, how can we inflate per country? Like, why has it worked and how can we improve? But what that represents for the UK economy and for the current, most of our partners are UK based, is the ability to trade like that too. So how can we help those guys improve their own environment through post-COVID and that kind of thing, to actually trade more in many, many countries. So that's one thing that to me is about taking ourselves into the next connecting everything in more places is probably what it's about. And yeah, like 5G is very exciting. It's coming down the road, the various levels of it. For us as a team, I think constantly looking at what's the next bit of tech. Where's the solutions around. Arslan told me the other day he went to a conference and they're talking about 6G. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? We haven't even baked the pie yet. In terms of the slice, we haven't even done that part yet. But yet now we're talking about a different kind of pie. So it's a cool place to be in terms of thinking of the next tech. It's our job to make sure it's relevant for our clients. How we keep it relevant, whether that's geography or the type of technology or commercially. So that's our sort of plan.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, look, no doubt you're going to be a success. You've done some fantastic things already, and looking forward to everything that you're going to do in the future. Dan Cunliffe, Arslan Usman, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.